Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. Please have a seat. Light and darkness, seeing and unseeing, or not seeing, are the major themes that run throughout all the Gospels, and that is never more evident than we come to a service such as this, that contrasts light and darkness and asks us to reflect on the light that we see by. And in this service it is that light that symbolises the light that we are called to see by, the Paschal candle, the light of Christ. When we see by the light of Christ, we see life and love and liberation. When we don't see by the light of Christ, we don't see life in everything. We don't see liberation in everything. We don't see love in everything. What light do you see by? You'll be able to tell what light you see by simply by monitoring what you think about what you are seeing. If you are seeing something and you're all miserable and negative about it, you are probably not seeing by the light of Christ. If you are seeing by the light of Christ, you will see Christ. You'll see God in all things. You'll see life and love and liberation. What light do you see by? In almost all the resurrection accounts in the Gospels, the disciples go home. We heard it in tonight's Gospel. They go back to your homes, go back to Galilee. There you will see him. And there is only one way to see him. It is through the light that he provides. And the light that is provided through the triumph over death and darkness in the resurrection. Errol was a train driver. I knew Errol was a train driver because he wore the olivey green uniform that train drivers used to wear back in those days. Errol rode a former PNG red bicycle that he'd bought at a clearance sale. And he would ride it down to Waratah railway station, just over here somewhere, and where he would catch the train to work, and then he would drive the train all day, and he would come back to Waratah railway station and ride his bike home. On a Friday, at 5 minutes to 5, Errol would come into the butcher shop that I worked in Mayfield, nearly 50 years ago. And every week, Errol would buy exactly the same thing: a pound of mince, a pound of sausages, 4 lamb chops, and a piece of corned meat. Every Friday, Errol would come in just as we were about to close the shop, and he would get a pound of mince, a pound of sausages, 4 lamb chops, and a piece of corned meat. He was a lovely man, and he would talk about the wife, as men did, we don't do that anymore, but in those days, he would often talk, and he would speak with great tenderness and love and affection about the wife. I had never met the wife, only Errol, on a Friday afternoon, just before closing time at 5 o'clock. Well, one Friday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, the phone rang, and it was Errol telling me that there was a train strike and he was stuck in Sydney. Could I take a pound of mince, a pound of sausages, 4 lamb chops and a piece of corned meat around to the wife? I gladly said that I would be happy to do that, and he promised that he would come in and pay me next week, which I trusted him to do. So it was the middle of winter, and we got out of the shop at about 5:30, and I rode my bike. It wasn't actually my bike, it was my sister's bike, and it was pink, and it had a nice little basket on the front that I'd borrowed from her. I rode my sister's bike to the address that Errol had given me to deliver the pound of mince, the pound of sausages, the 4 lamb chops and the piece of corned meat to the wife. I knocked and I knocked and I knocked. The house was in darkness. And I thought, well, the wife must be out somewhere. It was winter time, and I thought, well, there's probably no harm in just leaving the pound of mince, the pound of sausages, the 4 lamb chops and the piece of corned meat on the front doorstep, hoping that Errol would get home in time to put it in the refrigerator. So I laid the package on the front steps and I began to walk away, and then I heard the door open. And I went back. The house was still in darkness. And I said to the wife, "Oh, hi, I'm Rod. I'm from the butcher shop. Errol rang and asked me to leave some meat." She said, "Yes, thank you very much." I said, "The house was in darkness and I thought you weren't home." And she just stood there for a moment, and I looked at her face and realised that she was blind. And she said, "Where does your light come from?" The Lord be with you.